All right, so we got our math jam. This is day 2 of our boot camp. Let's talk about inequalities. That's where we'll start. So like equations without equal signs. Equations without equality. Negative 3x plus 2 is greater than negative 5x plus 10. I'm deliberately going to move this in a direction that leaves me with a negative coefficient for a reason. It'll help illustrate things you need to remember. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides, and I will subtract 10 from both sides. And I have negative 8 is less than negative 2x. And when I isolate my variable, I divide by a negative 2. This is x, this is 4. But when you divide by a negative, what do? Flip the sign or flip the inequality. So, and let's say we solve this the other way real quick. And now we'll add 5x to both sides. Move everything to the left, the variables to the left, the constants to the right. I have 2x is greater than 8. I divide by 2. I get x is greater than 4. So the other time we flip the inequality, if we swap sides without any operations.
This week we still have summer school.
Yeah. Oh, she does some. Just take the last of her stuff. Needy.
I have more than that.
So notice if I wanted to put the x on the, what I mean by swap sides without operations, up here I was doing operations to move x. Here, if I just want to put x on the right and 4 on the left, the alligator needs to be chasing the x, where no matter where it ends up. So that's a little reminder of how that goes. Thank you for unlocking the card. I don't know if that was you or Red, Mr. O, Dr. O. He said, "No one calls me Mr. O. How dare you?" Has anyone called you Mr. O in a really long time?
Yeah, occasionally I get someone that's confused.
Like people that have known you for a really long time and were taught by you and stuff like that.
Sometimes my wife will call me Mr. O instead of Dr. O, so.
That's to be expected. She's earned that right.
And my daughters, sometimes they'll call me Dad O instead of Dr. O. It's okay.
How dare they?
I think they are.
Dado? I like it. Dado.
Dad O. I call them Daughter O. Daughter
Dado. Yes! Everybody call him Mr. O.
Don't start that.
Mysterio. There we go.
I've had Dr. O for 35 years.
Dr. O's gonna be filing a complaint against me later on.
Master's degree took 5 years.
So now let's do a double inequality or compound inequality.
That's against nature, is that real?
Yeah. How do I solve this one? Two of you spoke at once. Let's go with what you said. What'd you say? Right. So when we did it with the equal sign, there was only 2 sides, and we did it to both sides. Now there's 3 regions. So whatever we do in one region must be done in all regions to maintain balance. This is like, Anakin Skywalker supposed to be balanced to the Force. I don't know if you guys like Star Wars or not. So we're trying to isolate the variable. We'll subtract 7 first. And we get negative 10 is less than 5x is less than or equal to 3. Divide by 5 everywhere. And we get negative 2 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 3/5, or 0.6. Fancy.
Oh, decimals are for commoners.
Or engineers.
Or engineers, yes.
Before I graph this one and do interval notation with that one, I want to come back and talk about this one real quick. Let's look at the x greater than 4 as interval notation. So interval notation. X greater than 4. If you draw it on a number line, you can always put a circle wherever your target number is. If we have a less than or greater than or a less than, we use a hollow circle. If we have a greater than or equal to or a less than or equal to, we use a solid point. Hollow point or solid point. So x is greater than 4 is a hollow point, and we're looking for values that meet that statement. If you don't know, always pick a test number to test it. 0 is an easy number to plug in. Is 0 greater than 4? No. So we want to shade the other direction. If you don't like doing the shading the line, which can be irritating when you're doing it, another way of doing it is like making a little arrow up above it and pointing to the right. Then when you're doing interval notation, all the way to the left is negative infinity, all the way to the right is positive infinity. And we kind of go left to right. As soon as our number line starts, we put our first number down, 4. And we go to where our line stops. It stops as infinity. We'll put a comma with infinity. Infinities, both plus or minus, are always parentheses, as are values that are greater than or less than. These are parentheses. If we have greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, we get a bracket. So 4 had a greater than sign next to it. We are going to use a parentheses on the 4, and infinities always have a parentheses, so we put in parentheses there. This is my least favorite notation ever because it looks like a coordinate or a XY value. Now if we look at the negative 2 less than x less than 3/5, all those rules still apply. We'll graph it real quick. Oh, wait. There we go. So 3/5, if that's a 1, 3/5 is 3 steps of the way there, and negative 2 is here. The negative 2 has no equal portion, so we're gonna leave it hollow. The 3/5 has an equal portion, so we're gonna fill it in. X is between them. You can pick test values if you'd like for each region. Negative 100, 0, and 100. And which ones satisfy it? Is negative 2 less than negative 100, less than or equal to 3/5? No. Same thing goes true with 100. It does not meet all of them, but 0 will work. Oops. So this is a region we like, this is not a region that we like, or we don't like those regions. We can either shade between them, or we can do the little line connecting above. That focus doesn't look that good. Can I tell it to autofocus? Did it on this?
Hey, wait, can we address something?
Yeah,
Calculus drives me crazy. I know they're gonna do this. Everyone does this. Makes my head explode. Tell me, is there anything wrong with this, guys? Nothing wrong with that. Compound inequality where the inequalities go the different ways. See over here, the inequalities are the same way.
Well, in this case, this doesn't.
Can you do it the different ways like that? Does that even make sense?
Saying it's greater than five
No.
doesn't make sense. Why would you do that?
So it's just from -2 to.
It's the same thing, if we just erase the greater than five.
So what does this mean?
-2 is less than x.
It says -2 is greater than 5, right? The inequalities have to face the same way, and if they're in calculus and they ever put them together like that, Mr. Redden's head's gonna explode.
that's a quick way to get very few points.
But it means just
That is nonsensical, right?
No.
Do you agree that's nonsensical?
Because you should be able to eliminate the pieces in the middle, and then it says -2 is less than greater than 5.
You've done that before, huh?
No one's seen it.
You should be able to eliminate the filling in the sandwich and still have a sandwich that's empty. And if you eliminate the x there, it says -2 was less than greater than 5, the way it was originally written.
It's actually a compound inequality. There's 2 inequalities in one, so you have to be careful.
Yes.
Just saying. No more distraction, keep going.
Well, thank you. And you can have them both doing greater than, but it's awkward. Our number line is normally left to right increasing. We tend to do our inequalities increasing. Like this statement would be true also. 3/5 is greater than or equal to x, which is greater than or -2, but it's awkward. Don't do this.
Right, Bill?
It's correct, but I'm gonna mock you.
My dyslexia doesn't handle it so well.
And it makes the next step hard. If you're trying to write this in interval notation, we can do the left-right thing here. It starts at -2, it ends at 3/5. The -2 has a hollow point, it gets the parentheses. This has a solid point, it gets a bracket.
Yes.
We go left to right in increasing order, so like doing the greater than one option is awkward at best.
Yeah, it wasn't working, so I found like 7. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't write that.
What else we got here?
Using 4, 16, 55. And so, yeah.
Oh, and as Mr. Redden was saying,
That's why I went to 7, where
this is the equivalent of saying -2 is less than x, and x is less than or equal to 3/5.
yeah.
Now, there is an option for equalities that has two equations, or inequalities that has an or rather than an and.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at -2x plus 1 is less than or equal to 7, or -3x minus 5 is greater than 13. When you have an or, you don't really want to put them together. It's going to be no bueno. Unless you want Mr. Redden's head to explode, And then you want to like whisper to your friends, everybody do it that way. So it's just like, he thinks he did something wrong as an instructor when all the students do it. We solve each equation or inequality separately.
Wait, what? I know, you flipped the inequality. Oh, what was it? I was why do you flip the inequality when you divide by a negative number? Did you already say?
Because it's like changing the sides. I didn't actually say why.
I want a good explanation.
You want a good explanation? Because if we don't, it's no longer true. That is an excellent reason why.
Do it or you're gonna die.
That's a worse explanation. You're threatening students.
Inequality when you divide by a negative number.
Wait, was it 5?
Why?
It
Or
was
multiply, divide or multiply.
No, but why?
You guys said so, that's why.
Why? Just because we said so?
Because -4 is less than -3.
That's true, but that's not why.
That is a why.
That's
Because
because
an
of why
absolute
I feel
value,
like-
the negative sign is always less than a smaller absolute value.
So on the other side of the number line, things are a little different, right? Right? On the other side of the number line, big numbers are actually smaller, right? So.
Feels like an awkward description to
It's an
say it
awkward-
produces false answers.
It's a tough question to answer coherently,
Well, yeah.
because that's the way it works. But that's not like a good explanation. Maybe you guys can think of a better explanation actually why. Think about it a little more deeply rather than it's just a rule and I have to do it. ChatGPT probably has a better explanation than Mr. Jones.
Ask me.
Mr. Jones just says, because you have to do it, it's a rule.
That's not what I said. I
That was
said
what I
because
said.
it produces the wrong answer.
It does produce the wrong answer, but that's not a why. So if you were gonna explain it to your little brother, what are you gonna say?
I don't have a limit.
Then you're gonna
Because I
why?
said so, that's if you.
Because I said so really well.
So a lot of teachers will say because it's a rule, but there's reasons.
Because that's the way we were taught.
There's reasons.
Yeah, why is it a rule?
I know, why is it a
Who
rule?
decided on that?
The universe changes on the left side of the number line.
I disagree.
If a student asked me, rather than Mr. Redden, I would say if we started off with -2x, x is less than or equal to 6, and if I say x equals 1, -2 times 1 is less than or equal to 6, this holds true. And then if I divide by -2 and I have x is less than or equal to -3, and I try x equals 1 again, now I have 1 is less than or equal to -3, this is false. So not switching the inequality creates erroneous answers.
I would just move the 2x, the -2x to the right, the 6 to the left, and then you get the same statement.
Yeah.
And that proves it for all.
Are you a negative avoider?
I am a negative.
I'm a negative avoider too.
But I do tell them that it is a rule, but here's why, because if you can prove it for all x, then, instead of just one. And that's the same statement as above.
And these
But,
two are
yeah, you do
equivalent.
have to be careful with the negative and the inequalities.
You need to raise it higher because Mr. Redden is not, he'd rather just heckle me than do his job.
That's a question. Get that in the question. What's your question?
Shade, throwing shade up here. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here. I had x is less than -6 and x is greater than greater than or equal to -3.
When you cancel, the expression is the same. The meaning is different.
So greater than or equal to -3 is gonna be, put a circle on the -3,
That's a very
go to the right, and since it's got an equal portion, we're gonna fill it in.
The actual expression is
-6, where x is less than -6. Circle on it, arrow going left, and we don't fill it in. If you're doing set note or interval notation, we start on the left, our line hits at -infinity, and it continues until it hits -6. These both get parentheses, as I had said. Our line restarts at -3 and goes to positive infinity. -3 gets a bracket, and infinity gets the parentheses. When we have more than one region, we use the union sign, which is a fat wide U. So this is interval notation for that setup. Any questions?
I don't know. Sometimes if you don't know the formula.
The or means it only has to satisfy one inequality, one of these. So any number to the right doesn't satisfy the x less than -6, but it satisfies x greater than -3. And any number less than -6 satisfies x less than -6. Doesn't satisfy this one, but the or is like, as long as it meets one criteria. The one we did a second ago, the compound inequality, the and, it has to satisfy both. And we often write the and one as a sandwich to illustrate that it meets both. It makes it a little easier to see. This leads us to absolute value. So 4x, absolute value of 4x minus 5 equals 7. It's important to remember, if you know, or learn if you've never learned it, the absolute value of x equals a means if x is less than 0, x equals -a, or -x equals a. That's a better way of saying it. And if x is greater than or equal to 0, x equals a. Like, you could see this here, if we had x equaled -1, so we wanted the absolute value of -1. If we do -x would be -1, and we'd get 1, which is what it should equal when we take the absolute value. So anyone want to help me on this one? What do I do with absolute value equations? Juan, shoot.
I guess if I were to give you an example, if the absolute value of x is equal to 3, then px has to be either -3 or +3.
Let's do this one.
So in this case,
I already did that example.
it's based on that, we know that it has to be plus or minus.
It should be ±7. It's easier to write this as two equations rather than doing plus or minus, because you need to solve them individually. So absolute value forks into two answers, unless the right side is 0, because plus or minus 0 doesn't make sense. We solve these individually. I get a toolkit. I feel special.
This is actually awesome. Look through it.
It's very beautiful. Most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
That's how it works. It's got like, this is nice.
This is,
Somebody put like a lot of work.
Thank you, I did.
Oh, that's pretty good. When you leave COS, you will know everything in this little booklet. Well, you'll be familiar with it, but it'll look
I bet if we have Red put that down and we pop quizzed him, he'd miss some of this shit.
Oh, I missed some of this easy.
It's like 90% of it.
I'm not gonna go 90%, that's ridiculous, he is a math instructor. But I think we could catch him on maybe like inverse trig identities.
Stuff will get.
Hyperbolic.
He could figure them out, given time with pen and paper. Like, I bet he doesn't remember the half angle formula for tangent,
I do not.
neither do I.
Oh,
No one,
No respecting mathematician memorizes that shit.
right?
That's what tables are for. Tamara's like, I know it. No, I was saying you're better at math than me and Redden. Is exactly what I said in different words. I said, me and him don't remember the half angle formula for tangent, but I bet Tamara does. See, was that smack talk? No, you just heard your name and you assumed the worst about me.
Compound, Bolt.
CPHS,
What?
rather than UPHS, CPHS.
Maybe we can learn how to do like.
Cult property home studies. She's gonna open up a school out there. Alright. So we have two answers that work here, and we can put either one in, and it should make a true statement. You can always check it. Let's stick in 3. Test the points. X equals 3. The absolute value of 4 times 3 minus 5, does that equal 7? Absolute value of 12 minus 5 does equal 7. We'll try the negative 1/2. Absolute value of 4 times negative 1/2 minus 5, does that equal 7? We get negative 2 minus 5 in the absolute values. And the absolute value of negative 7 is 7. So both cases work. You're such a nerd, Weaver, wearing that math shit in here.
Just to evaluate.
Evaluate? I'm not up for review. The hell is this? All right, so that was an absolute value equation. Let's take a look at an absolute value inequality.
These are hard. Someone already had a question on Alice, like, how do you do these inequality ones? You gotta be careful, don't make shit up, you better do it the way he shows you. It matters.
Less than sign has the sounds like and. This is the easiest, one of the easy ways to remember it. And gives us a compound inequality. We'll do a greater than 1 in a second. We have our 8 turns into a negative 8 and a positive 8, but it's really values that are between it. So we add 1 to every region. Divide by 3. And we have negative 7/3 is less than or equal to x, is less than or equal to 3. I don't know about you, Mr. Redden. Are you a stickler for not having improper fractions?
Oh, I'm okay with improper fractions. That means when the top is bigger than the bottom, I'm okay with that. You okay with that?
I'm okay with that too.
Commoners hate that. Commoners wanna see 2 1/3 or something. 2.33. If you put 2.33, you're going to math jail. Decimals are ridiculous. I'm okay with improper.
Where exactly is math jail located?
It's like in purgatory. It's the same place.
So it's borderline hell.
It's borderline hell. It's on the edge.
So it's hell adjacent.
Look what he did. So you see how the argument has to be, the 3x minus 1 has to be in between negative 8 and 8? I get this a lot. And this seems reasonable. Doesn't this seem reasonable?
Well,
I get it a
You-
lot,
you
but it
kinda
doesn't
wanna-
work.
You kind of want to do that, like doing the positive 8, the negative 8, but it doesn't work. We actually
Doesn't
have
work.
to change the inequality when we do the negative version.
The universe does not work that way.
And that's how these two get put together.
You have to do it that way, I mean, there's no other way. I mean, that's the easy way, there's other ways to do it, that's the easy way to do it. Is that how to cheat sheet?
Let's take a look at one that's similar, but the other inequality. Greater than or equal to 2. Okay, so we can do 2x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 2. And then we have 2x plus 7. We got to change the sign when we do the negative version. And if you want to see if the sandwich makes sense here, let's try to put it in order. Like if I change sides here, I could make this like this. And if I try to put them together, I have negative 2 is greater than or equal to 2x plus 7, which is greater than or equal to 2. And you got to ask yourself, does this make sense? Or are you going to jail? And how you check it? Block that one and say, is negative 2 greater than or equal to 2? This doesn't make sense. This is false. So we can't combine. The way I remember this one, easiest, greater or greater. This sounds like or. It's a stupid mnemonic, but it works. So the less than sounds like and, the greater sounds like or. So 2x plus 7, absolute value of 2x plus 7 greater than or equal to 2 gives us 2x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 2, or 2x plus 7 is less than or equal to negative 2. And we solve them separately. Two x is greater than or equal to 5, or 2x is less than or equal to negative 9. Thank you. X is greater than or equal to negative 5 halves, or x is less than or equal to negative 9 halves. So how do I solve this one? Yeah,
Similarly to the other one, you do, in this case, 3 is less than x plus 4, which is less than negative 3. Or you can, but because the negatives on this side, switch this. Put the negative 3 on that. But it means the same.
so you're saying do this?
Other way.
Negative 3 is greater than? What do you mean other way? Say it again.
Wait, so the first equation is, wouldn't it be negative 3 is greater than x plus 4?
Why?
I don't know
It's opposite.
why. I just know, okay, the first one is opposite sign, and then the second one is the same sign. So the two,
So you're wanting to do 3, is this what you're saying? 3 is less than, or less than x plus 4? Is less than negative 3? Is that what you're saying?
You can do it, but it feels awkward because the negative is on.
So how are you saying to do it?
You can do negative 3 is greater than x plus 4, or which, yeah.
Is that any better?
No.
Is either of those a true statement, ever? Is there any value of x that's gonna meet that criteria? So originally, what we would have done would be x plus 4 is less than -3, and it's like saying negative x plus 4 is less than -3, and then you multiply through by the negative. You get x plus 4 is greater than +3. And if we try to put these together, we would have this. Putting them together gets this. But no, the less than is an and.
Oh, I see.
What we have, if we eliminate the middle, is -3 is greater than 3, which is a problem. Don't help, Mr. Redden. I know you want to. What's wrong? Why didn't this work? It worked on the less than before, but when we did the same strategy with less than here, it generates a false statement. Why? What's wrong with this?
Because absolute value can't be negative.
Absolute value always generates a positive number or 0. And we're saying that in shorthand notation, a positive number is less than a negative number. This is never true. There is nothing that is going to make that left side less than -3. Good job, Teresa. It makes me feel better that,
Crap, because doesn't
I
this
taught you
always
that.
have to be positive? So there's no way it can
The
be.
lights are on, but no
He
one's
just
home.
gave us like a trick question.
It's a trick question, there's one like.
my former algebra student got it though.
Even if you get rid of the absolute value,
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It'll work if there's no absolute value.
Oh, I could definitely solve it without the absolute value. X plus 4 less than -3. It changes the equation entirely.
Well, what the hell's the answer? It's just a bunch of scribbles.
So there's no solution.
I like it when it's no solution, because then you're done. You walk away.
Just say no.
It's like, free question. Well, that's tricky.
And I'll,
Get it totally right.
and the other way around, now that that's planted in your head. Absolute value of x minus 1 is greater than -2.
Yeah.
What happens here? Anybody? What goes on here?
It's an or, isn't it? 'Cause it's-
This is an or.
Or, that's an or.
So then you do one the same and then you flip the sign and
Okay. Let's give that a try.
Make it sound like it's not gonna work. Didn't you just say? It's gonna work.
Why doesn't the peanut gallery let me finish?
Keep going. It's like a mystery, I wanna know.
And if I leave it like this, these are true, but like, let's look at what we're talking about here on a number line. X is greater than -1, starts at -1, and its number's larger than -1. X is less than 3, starts at 3, and its numbers, values that are less than 3. It's an or, so it only needs to satisfy 1. It needs to show up somewhere on the line. If we do our interval notation, it shows up on the blue line right away at -infinity. And here, there's a region where it's on both lines. And when we get to positive infinity, it's only on the red line, but that still works. So x can be any real number. Or we can say x is an element of the real numbers.
Scroll down a little bit, cut it off.
What? Oh, went up too high?
Cut it off. That's a lot of work for just being able to see it. Can't you just see it?
Yeah,
Absolute value has to be positive, and it's always gonna be bigger than -2, isn't it?
so the shortcut here is recognizing that we have a positive is greater than a negative. This is always true. No matter what x we use, it's true. So we get x as any real number.
So like in the math class, do I need to show all that, or can I just recognize that the answer is already numbers?
You should make for me, at least make a note of why you're saying this. If you jump from this to this without any step between, well, photomath does that, and I don't know that you know what the hell you're talking about.
But it's like obvious.
But you could say this and make it pretty obvious, but have something that supports
So
what you're
say
saying.
something.
Say something. It doesn't need to be the plus is greater than the negative, but it should say something like there's no value where this isn't true, the left is always positive. This is the shortest way of saying it without words.
So what the hell's the answer? Minus infinity to infinity? X can be any real number, or this fancy R?
It's better just to put it all down if you're getting points for showing your.
It depends on, if your teacher wants interval notation, you would use this. If your teacher doesn't care, you can use this. Or if your teacher likes to use the good old ugly garbage notation, you can use this.
So they're all the same?
They're all the same.
Our calculus book, which one will it
Oh, I
use?
see what you're saying. Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
I don't know.
It would only-
That's a good
It's
question.
either this one or this one.
But if they're going into calculus, that means they're going to encounter stuff that may be from other textbooks. They should know the notation, what it means.
What is this weird thing? It looks like an E, a backwards E or
Let's see
something.
the red line.
This symbol, it's not a backwards E. Do you not know how to make an E?
That's a forwards E? What is that?
It means an element of,
An element of all.
or is an element of.
Belongs. Weird notation sometimes.
There's other fun notations. The backwards E that he's talking about is this. You will see it.
Oh, yeah.
This means there exists,
It's summer, I'm tired.
and the upside down capital A
That's
means
ridiculous, an upside down A, no.
for all. Yeah, mathematicians are lazy. I know a mathematician came up with this. Professor Tom said it yesterday. He said, we're lazy, and I agree, we're lazy. In fact, the golf, the fog, the F of G and G of F, that notation saves all of one symbol. When you write it out and compare it to the original, it saves one symbol and made everybody learn some new shit that's confusing to read to save one symbol.
I think it's efficient though, you know? Give it
Trying to
some-
say-
It's more efficient because it saves one symbol. And yet you have to teach a new form of mathematics, a new notation to everybody to make it more efficient, because if it's not readable, it's less efficient.
It's job security.
It's job security. All right,
It's secure.
exponents. Woo-hoo! This is where you guys started yesterday. Where Redden hijacked my shit. We've got a bunch of rules with exponents. X to the m times x to the n equals x to the m plus n. This is like x squared times x cubed. X times x is this one. X times x is this one. And we put them together, there's 5 of them, which is the same as x to the 2 plus 3. We also have x to the m raised to the nth power. This gives us x to the m times n. An example here would be x squared cubed. This is x squared times x squared times x squared. That's what the cube part does. And using our previous rule, 2 plus 2 plus 2 is the same as 2 times 3. And we end up with x to the 6th. Hopefully this rings a bell. Weaver's back here taking notes, he's like, I don't remember this shit.
Looks good, looks good, doing it right. It starts over.
Then we have something like this, where there's a product inside the parentheses. This is the same as x to the n, y to the n.
There's scientific notation.
Is this in the book? She handed out that book, then we might have the exponent rules in here. Ah, fuck it, I'm done writing them down then, you guys can look at the rules in there. How about I just do that? This is like page 2 or 3? Maybe I'll give examples of why they work. So if I were to do an example of why this one works, I could say 2 times 3 squared. Well, one way of doing this would just be multiplying them and squaring them and getting 36. And then doing the pattern or the formula gets us this, which is 4 times 9, which is also 36. So examples of why they work. Then we have the division one. Understanding why they work, that's why I'm breaking them down over here, makes it more helpful and easier to remember, like makes sense. It's not just some formula I gotta remember, it follows a reason. If we have x to the m over x to the n, this is x to the m minus n. Mr. Redden used this yesterday. If I have x to the 5th power over x cubed, this is like doing x times x times x times x times, I think I said that too many times. 5 x's multiplied together on top, 3 on bottom. We cross them off one at a time on top and bottom, leaving behind a 1. And we're only left with x squared on top, 1 on bottom, which is x to the 5 minus 3. So that's why that shortcut works. Then we have, here we had multiplication inside the parentheses. Maybe I should have done this one at the same time. Let's do division inside. An example here would be, let's do 9 over 3 inside squared. One way of doing this is just directly doing division. That we got 3 squared, and 3 squared is 9. The other way is separating them, like the formula allows us to do. 9 squared is 81, 3 squared is 9, and 81 divided by 9 is 9. So it works either way. It's not a proof of why it always works, but it's an example of how it works. You want proofs for all these things, take a real number class, real analysis class. Godspeed, it's not a fun class. You need to prove why addition works. It's like, you gotta prove, right?
Like number 2?
Yeah, you prove all the basic operations you know and have understood since you were, I'm gonna go with 10, you probably learned all the math symbols by then. May not have had a full understanding of them, but had seen addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Oh, we're missing a good one, a negative one. But before we get to the negative one, let's do the one that Mr. Redden brought up yesterday and made fun of Juan for. X is 0 equals 1
I don't know about that.
if x does not equal 0.
I made a mistake yesterday, I put x is greater than 0, but x could be negative.
You did, and that was you, and I let you run with it. Me and Juan talked about how wrong you were, though. But I didn't want to do that, I didn't want to blast you in front of the class.
Because the whole power always says anything to the power of 0 is 1.
What do you think?
But when you put 0, it becomes
So the idea, what's wrong in layman's terms with 0 to the 0? You'll see why eventually in calculus, but what is wrong in layman's terms here? Exponent means multiply the stuff together, means multiply. Repeatedly multiply. So like, even if I'm only multiplying it 0 times, I should still end up with 0. I get that.
That does not make sense.
That doesn't make sense, but you should like, there's nothing there. This one kind of doesn't make sense this way. But if we look at, how was I gonna say this? I completely brain farted in how I wanted to show two different routes where they like
In
conflict.
layman's terms, 0 to 0 is an error because that's what my calculator says.
You just went with don't do
You
the,
said layman's terms.
yeah.
If the calculator says it must be true. Calculator's never wrong.
So it's got two conflicting things. We're saying it should equal 1, and this says it should equal 0. There's a conflict there. Just treat it as a conflict. It's unresolved until you explore it in calculus. And really, in all reality, you're never gonna have, will never have 0 to the 0. You can have, will have 0.00000000001 to the 0, or 0 to the 0.0000001 kind of thing. It's a limit idea that you explore in calculus.
Perfect spot to talk about indeterminate. What does indeterminate mean? In perfect spot. Indeterminate. Cannot determine the answer. So 0 over 0 is not just undefined. 0 to 0 is not just undefined, it's indeterminate. And should I explain what indeterminate actually means?
Go for it, since you're there.
Since I'm there. I'm up there, I'm hijacking. Here's your calculator. What is 50 divided by 2? Why is it equal to 25? Everybody agree 50 divided by 2 is 25?
That's the way you explain it.
Division is the opposite of multiplication, right? So you would say because 25 times 2 is 50. Yeah? We can do this all day long. It's like, what's 25 divided by 5? What's the answer? And if someone asked you why, what would you say? Because 5 times 5 is 25, right? It's completely determined. It's the division is the opposite operation of multiplication. So if I say 0 divided by 0 is equal to 1, is that true? 1 times 0 is 0, right? 1 times 0 is 0. But also, the answer could be 5. 5 times 0 is 0 as well, right? The answer could be 7. 7 times 0 is 0. So this is not just undefined, it's even worse, it's indeterminate. You can have anything. Indeterminate. Indeterminate, that's what indeterminate means. And I showed yesterday that 0 to the 0th power is basically the same thing. It's a number that's worse than undefined. Could be anything. Like, what's the superhero in Marvel that can be anything?
It's hard to be that.
What do you mean can be, like Mystique can look like
Mystique, yes,
anybody?
it's like Mystique. 0 over 0 is worse than undefined. So in an algebra class,
He would have never came up with any superhero name.
I know,
I don't even
that's
think
why
he
I
knows who
asked.
Batman is.
Don't watch TV. If you become a math major, you don't get to watch TV.
That's not
just more than
true.
it.
This is factually incorrect.
Everybody see the problem? The difference between undefined and indeterminate. In calculus, it matters. It really does.
It does.
Matters a lot.
The same problems occur with infinity and zero in combinations as well. There's a lot of indeterminate forms you will explore in calculus later on. But for the most part, as long as you don't have 0 as x, anything to that power is 1. And the reason why is very similar as I believe Mr. Redden showed you yesterday. If we have 2 cubed over 2 cubed, this is 8 over 8, which equals 1. But if we use the subtraction rule, we have 2 to the 3 minus 3, which is 2 to the 0. And these two need to equal. So that's an example of how that equals 1. And now our glorious negative exponent. X to the negative n is equivalent to 1 over x to the n. And 1 over x to the negative n is equivalent to x to the n. So a negative exponent, one way to think of it is move it to the opposite side of the fraction. And make it positive. Make the exponent positive. If you want to see a little bit of where this stems from, I can rewrite 1 over x to the n as x to the 0 over x to the n. And then we can apply that subtraction rule. Fancy. Wasn't that fancy? That was fancy. Let's do some applications with this or like some simplifying. Let's simplify. Let's do 2x to the negative 3 over 6x to the negative 5. What happens here? So one way to do it, you said subtract the exponents, right? So if I subtract the exponents, I have negative 3 minus negative 5. And we can reduce the 2/6 down to 1/3. And this is negative 3 plus 5, which is x squared. Another way of doing this is just moving the x's to the opposite side of the fraction and making the exponents positive. Notice the negative exponent is not on the number, it's just on the variable. And this gets us down when we simplify this, 1 on top, 3 on bottom, and then the x over 5, x cubed cancels like that. So we have 1/3 x squared, or as we have it written here, x squared over 3. Either works. Which way do you like, Mr. Redden? Or
I like 1/3 x squared.
I like 1/3 x squared too.
I see the coefficient better.
This is cleaner. Textbooks do this a lot, and I think it's because it saves a little bit of space. I don't know. The top one, I think it looks a little cleaner. Mr. Redden is ignoring me for, he's bonding with Weaver. Which do you prefer here, Mr. Redden? 1/3 out front or 3 on the bottom?
Oh, I don't have a preference. I think it's equal. What do you think?
They are equal, but which do you like better? Don't say you don't have a preference. Everyone has preferences. You like this one?
Yeah.
This explains one of the things is wrong with Redden.
No, that one's better.
It's like less.
Yeah.
You're a kiss ass.
Nah, mathematician.
What? What the hell do you think I am? I'm a mathematician.
You're like computer science and.
No, he is. I learned computer science from him.
And now you taught us.
You're right. Alright. Give you guys some more work.
What about negative fractions? Did you do fraction exponents?
What?
Did you do fractional exponents?
No. We're getting there, because that leads to radicals. And radicals is a
Yes,
whole nother
exponents
branch.
can be fractions. Your dream has come true.
We're getting there, do not derail this.
Well, I'm just.
No, bad dog.
I could see them thinking, I wish exponents could be fractions.
We will get there, I promise you, we will
I
do
just like
exponents and
fractions so
fractions.
much.
Spray bottle. I don't know.
I don't know if that's water, but I really do want to spray it when Misty makes.
I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Can exponents be decimals?
Yeah.
Those are fighting words right there.
Can exponents be complex? Oh.
We haven't done complex numbers yet, stop.
Can exponents be complex? I don't even know.
Don't switch to decimals either, because that's the same thing as a fraction,
I'm putting it on the
Cass.
board. 5 to the I power. Bring it.
Oh, gosh. What are we supposed to do?
5 to the I power, hurry up. Job interview question.
What's the question?
Who wants to work at COS?
What's the question?
5 to the I power.
That's not a question.
How much is it?
I don't even know what it is. Can you even do such a thing?
So do you mean to the I?
Are you done?
Can exponents be complex? I have no clue.
They could be letters, but you have to know.
It's not a letter,
It's
it's not a letter,
It's I.
it is a value. This is why I said don't do this.
Well, you can do Euler's formula, right?
Can you do that?
No, that is undefined.
I don't know.
It's undefined, it has negative one inside the
You
square
should have just
root.
chanced it with
There
the spray
cannot be,
bottle.
there cannot be negatives inside the square root.
If he melts though, I don't know if it's
Complex
water or he's a
number.
witch.
Oh wait, I'm like, we're not in a lab, so there's no
Unless
like
you can even
the
show
time
us
space.
It's automatically undefined.
Should I erase that? Is that too scary? It's too scary.
If you can't explain the answer, you need to erase it.
Set your alarm for 3 a.m. 3 a.m.
No way, bro.
Set your alarm for 3 a.m.
And just go on to this.
And when the alarm goes off at 3 a.m., look under your bed.
And Redden,
And that's what you're gonna see.
Redden, Euler's equation, EI data, you can have I in there. But they're not ready for that.
You're not ready for this. You are so not ready. But yes, it is possible.
The truth is too much.
Truth, you can't handle the truth.
I can't handle the truth.
If you wanna know more about I as an exponent, since he derailed this shit,
Mr. Rankin.
I as an exponent, look up
You can call me John.
Euler's equation.
The reason I call
You call it Euler's
T.
That's how you say the name Euler.
Euler.
It is not Euler, it is Euler.
I just automatically know this.
This is showing that you are not a mathematician.
This is showing that I am an Indian.
It means, well, Indians don't mean that they pronounce shit wrong.
Now, we pronounce it.
That's some racist shit right there.
Oh, wow.
Why are you insulting other Indians?
I'm talking about myself.
You said you do it because you're an Indian.
Yeah.
No, you do it just because you're wrong. Other Indians say Euler.
Nah. I have another Indian. She can support, it's you. I don't think she's done that though.
It does look like Euler, I agree. And until you hear the correct pronunciation, you're gonna say Euler, but it's Euler.
Switzerland, he was born in Switzerland, so that's not right.
In fact, Google, how do I pronounce Euler? Don't do it now, do it later. God damn it, do you see how Redden does this shit? He just shows up and derails.
It is Euler's. I stand by my
It's not your people, it's you.
No, my maths teacher back in India told us it's Euler's.
So one person,
Now,
your
how
teacher
come also now
represents,
everyone I know is one person?
How about you just look it up?
you said your teacher said it that way.
Yeah, all of the
I
math.
wanted to.
I don't know. That's American implementation.
You realize Euler is not an Indian name.
But I was-
It's not an American name either.
You can pronounce it the way you
Yeah, but Euler was Switzerland, he was British.
Yeah.
But he was not Euler.
No, that's.
Now see, he's calling it Euler now, let's go.
So it's like you can't rely on saying, oh, this is America, but it's a different country.
It's not an American pronunciation, it's how he pronounces his name.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a language pronunciation, it's just Dill being wrong.
What's e to the I
Wait,
pi?
what's the-
Or what's Swiss?
-1.
Swedish, I meant to say Swiss.
Why?
Swiss.
Look up Euler's equation. It has to do with cosine pi plus I sine pi.
I thought Swiss.
So we're gonna add, there's a lot of x's here, I got a 3 here, we'll put the 3. Then I got the x's, I got 3 plus 4 plus 2. That covers this, this, and this. I've got my y's, there's 5 plus -2 plus -4. And that covers these. And then I got a z to the 0, but z to the 0 is 1. And so I don't need it because we don't need the 1. And then this is to the -2.
So, the internet says that usually, this is what the internet says, okay? On the engineering side, people usually all over the world call it Euler, but mathematics side, they call it Euler.
So that doesn't tell me anything though, like.
So what it says is a lot of people that don't actually know how it's pronounced
Yeah.
go by what it looks like, but it doesn't mean they're right.
Yeah, but that,
Billions of people can be wrong.
but what I'm saying is that's what I used to call it.
Used to. Are you switching to Euler?
I'll have to. and
You
you're gonna
will,
just
or you will be mocked.
You're just gonna bully me?
I will bully you.
I guess I have no choice.
It says it's a German surname.
It's a German name, yeah. Euler was German.
You said Swiss.
Now we have 2 options here.
But he was born in Switzerland.
Option 1 is to apply the negative exponent to each through multiplication.
No, there's a country next to this.
The other option is to move it to the opposite side of the fraction and make the exponent positive. Both of them are going to end up with 1 over
Okay.
9, x to the 18, y to the -2, and we move y to the -2 to the top as +2.
I think we should ask Euler himself. Sit down and get
He's gonna think I finally got rid of this shit and you're starting it again.
He's like, bro. I don't know.
Bro, chill.
Leave me alone.
Let's hit Mr. Redden with this. What scientific notation? Oh, what do we do, Mr. Redden?
That's like nonsense, bunch of junk. Oh my goodness. Those numbers. Commutative property.
I like the commutative property. That's an excellent approach. Commutative property has the word commute in it, and commute means move about. So I'm going to move the 8 over in front of the 10 to the -4. This would be 24, and these are the same base with different exponents, which means we can add the exponents, and we get 24 times 10 to the -10. Scientific notation, this is scientific notation. We want it to be a number between 0 and 1. Not 0 and 1, 0 and 9, 0 and 10. Not including 10. So like a single digit out front.
I see, but we got 24, so that doesn't meet the requirement.
Doesn't meet the requirement. So 24 is like 2.4 times 10 to the 1. And then we still have our 10 to the negative 10. I put the 1 there because we can see that we're going to add them. But 2.4 times 10 is 24. Would you agree? And now we can add those together. And we have times 10 to the negative 9.
Alright, so I would have circled 24 times 10 to the minus 10. How much would I get docked in a calculus class? Because I feel like this one's good enough. I mean, I would circle that.
But it has to do with safety.
And you're telling me the answer is this in the back of the book?
I don't know how safe it is.
Would I get docked points if I turned in the minus 10?
You should be, but it depends on the instructor.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why
Would
scientific.
you dock
If it
points?
asks, if the instruction says to write in scientific notation, then I would take a point off.
Yeah.
Even if it said scientific notation, I turned that in? That's
That's
scientific
not-
notation.
It's not,
Come on.
it's, that's not.
That's right, that's right.
Scientific
Mr.
notation.
Redding gets this wrong. He gets it.
Minus 1 point for that?
He understands. He's a man of the people.
I'd be like, I got that one right.
It's like not, simplifying a fraction,
Guess.
He knows this, Tom. He's just being read.
I'd be angry. Wouldn't you be angry? Come on, you do it.
I'd be angry if I could.
I feel like, can't get anything right. This guy, you gotta be perfect.
That's like saying leaving square root of 0 over 2 is a good answer because it's still correct.
No, but it's not the same. That's-
Yeah, it
It
is.
is the same,
They're identically the same.
yeah.
Square root of 0 over 2 is still 0. I gave a proper, the answer works.
I would be inclined to give full credit if someone stopped there.
And that is why you
And then I'd be like, Jones is a stickler, don't take him. My rate my professor's gonna be like, through the roof.
Do we want to play the rate my professor game?
No, I do not want to.
Because I know my rate my professor score.
I hate that website, we're gonna.
He hates the website. I use it when I'm having a bad day to remind myself of what a good job I do.
We're gonna, in Friday Night Lab, we're gonna run a denial of service attack on Rate My Professor. Who's in? 1, 2, 3, we're in. We're gonna take down that site.
You can comment on people's stuff.
We're
Some
gonna
people have
VPN
said,
Like
Well,
justify.
VPN through Russia, blame it on Russia.
well, some people say like wrong stuff,
Yeah, the great grade on there.
but he doesn't have a Jones
I
or.
Better than his.
Wow.
He like stacks the deck somehow, I don't know how he does it, he gives out candy.
He gives out extra.
I don't give out candy.
He doesn't like fraction.
So scientific notation, what does that, all that stuff mean? 2.4 times 10 to the negative 9. A negative exponent is equivalent to moving the decimal left that many times. Negative exponent in scientific notation.
Sometimes I get questions about the calculator, and I just get weird answers, like, we got a weird answer in the calculator, where it says like.
Yeah, I'll show calculator versions in a second.
Yeah. What's weird on the calculator?
So if I had 2.4, I would move it left 9 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm gonna fill all these in with zeros.
You almost didn't make it.
You almost didn't make it.
So
That's the best I got. Zeros, no, there's the 2. And if it's a positive one, positive exponent moves right. Calculators show this in many ways. They might have like calculator versions. If it's too small, many of them will automatically switch. It can be shown as 2.4, 10, negative 9 like this. Or 2.4 e negative 9, I've seen.
I'm not sure what E stands for, like, what the hell is E?
Wait, it might be a capital E.
Duh.
It might be a capital E. I think it's a capital E, because the lowercase e is definitely Euler. Euler's number.
Euler's, I think you're right, actually, Euler does seem.
How dare you?
He is right, what do you mean I think he's right?
Well, I've heard Euler a lot too, like growing up with Euler. That's, yeah, like when we heard Euler, that was the name. That we
Who did you, I guess that is a name I've heard. There is students here that are named Euler, not Euler. We're
There's,
gonna still derail this shit. This is all Redden's ongoing legacy of I.
I think it's a thing, right, Euclidean geometry, or Euclidean term? What do you call it?
Euclidean? Yeah, that sounds weird.
Euclidean
Euclidean geometry, right?
Euclidean.
was from Euclid, not Euler.
So see, now you get why people call it Euler.
Oh, I understand.
EU.
I didn't say I didn't understand. I called it Euler for a long time too, until I learned better.
Why are you giving a shit for it?
It's not right.
It just feels weird though, Euler.
Would you like me to say your name wrong all the time?
No, I mean people.
Neither does Euler.
People do that, but I'm fine with it. I myself am fine with it. Because people just can't pronounce
I mean,
it.
just call you Euler.
You know,
We can't say it for
No, Euler is
Alright, factoring.
You're not wrong. What?
He is dead, so.
We're gonna solve using factoring if possible. And then for bonus practice, then use quadratic formula.
Oh, but that's not bad.
Yeah, how did you know the cubic formula?
Do you? Because I don't. No, I don't.
Who knows the cubic formula?
Google knows it.
There is a cubic formula.
I bet there's no further.
My generative AI knows it.
Who knows the linear formula? Okay, you don't know the cubic formula, who knows the linear formula?
I never heard that.
Come on, nobody even knows the linear formula, let alone the quadratic formula.
I think you probably got that.
Is there a reason you're doing this to me?
Oh,
Who knows the linear formula?
yeah.
What's the linear formula? Come on, hurry up, linear formula.
C minus P over.
The linear formula, what is it?
C minus P over A.
Wow, that's a formula now?
The
Wow.
linear formula, right there.
Whoa.
You didn't even know the linear formula.
What's
This is
the,
what you learn in COS when you.
Where's the y? Where's the y?
There was no Y.
It's just the formula.
No, there's no why this is.
That's the formula.
That's the formula for the.
What about the point slope formula?
That's later. No! No! Don't ask him shit like
Yeah,
that.
why would you do that?
Not, you can ask him on a personal level with your laptop open, like you're working on a question and I'll help you on the question. As soon as you do this, he starts derailing shit.
So what's the quadratic formula?
Oh, okay, he's not derailing it right now.
What does it say? Come on. You know it, right? You know it. You know it. Write it
It
down.
can be plus or minus the square root of b squared times square AC, or minus square AC,
All over.
all over 2a.
It's not all.
Who's gonna do that?
It's all over.
All over.
Look at that.
It's all over.
Who's gonna do that?
Nobody.
God damn it, this is the whole thing. Do you know how many people do that and drives me crazy?
Yeah, you just did.
How hard is it to extend the goddamn fraction the whole way? Who does that? Who does that? You did that. Nobody's gonna do that. You did it.
I love that you tip your head down so that you can look over your glasses like that. He does this a lot, right? He tips his head down so he can look over his glasses like, this makes him look, I don't know.
I gotta like look at it.
Like you can't look through the glasses, he's gotta look down at you? That's the old person look. You don't want the old person look. I'm not threatened by you.
I have to understand. I'm gonna send you to the office. We have an office, you know.
How do I solve this?
Which one?
The only one I have up.
You just take
Take it
out.
to the other side,
Cancel
and
it.
back out to the next.
Take what over to the other side? So we can move that over, I like that, that seems like a good approach.
I just cancel one account and then,
And that is wrong,
what? Oh yeah, it makes a zero.
it eliminates an answer. We can factor out an X, but we can factor out something else, no.
Just factor out 2x, yeah.
Why don't we go with 2, because 14 is not divisible by 4.
2.
Now, if you're not sure what's left over, you can always rewrite the original over 2x. Look at this. What the hell is he doing here? Well, if you multiply it back through, don't we get this? This is technically what we're doing when we factor. And we're left with 2x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. And this is why we don't divide out an x.
Oh, don't divide by X. Oh my God, you know how many people do that?
Yeah.
How many?
Oh, it actually is a lot. If you're dividing by x,
How many is a lot?
division by x says x cannot equal 0. But we can see x equals 0 solves this equation. So when you divide out x, you've actually eliminated one of the answers. And you've done something that is technically wrong because x was 0 is valid. Don't do this. Now what?
Just enjoy it.
What?
Yes. We don't, is that timing?
Synthetic division?
Ooh,
No.
what does synthetically divide by what?
I don't know the math, no, like, real quick. It'll probably work. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to do synthetic division here, not until I know what I could divide by.
Yeah.
Let's go with let's do that A times C thing. A times C is 2 times 6 is 12, and B is -7.
Yep, -4, but
To get a negative number and multiply to a positive, they both need to be negative. That would give me -13, -2 and -6 would get me -8, -3 and -4 would get me -7. I'm gonna leave the 2x there. I'm just gonna split -7x into -3x and -4x. You should bring down everything else with the equation. Don't just do part of it, because this is the way to go. Or you can skip the step if you're on the next step. But this requires us to group. This is gonna have an x times 2x minus 3. This will have, we want another 2x minus 3 here, which means we need to take out a -2. And we end up with 2x times 2x minus 3 times x minus 2 equals 0. Now, we have 3 things multiplied together that equal 0, means one of them has to equal 0. Either this equals 0, or this equals 0, or this equals 0. This just gives us 0 when we divide by 2. Here I would solve like normal. Now I'm perfectly happy if you answer this as x equals 0, 2, or 3/2. That works for me. I don't know how the other professors feel about this. I think it's valid.
Why do we get 3 answers?
So the exponent on the highest term or the leading term tells us the number of possible answers. Well, it tells us the number of answers. Whether they're all real or not is up for debate. Here they ended up being real numbers.
What theorem is that? That is the fundamental theorem of algebra.
Names.
Does that sound important? The fundamental theorem of algebra?
It does sound important. It makes it sound important.
The fundamental theorem of algebra says you get up to the degree number of solutions. Right?
Of of unique solutions.
Fundamental theorem of
You can have
algebra. There's
repeat.
also a fundamental theorem of calculus.
Yeah.
Which you'll probably run into at some point. Sounds fundamental.
I sure as hell hope so, otherwise someone didn't do their job.
Sounds like the beginning.
And there's more to the fundamental theorem of algebra. It says not only you get up to the degree number of solutions, real solutions, it says you get exactly 3 complex solutions. Some of the solutions can be complex. So if there's a 5 there, you can get 5 solutions, some of them will be complex. Can you switch over to the internet?
Of course I can, what do you want me to put up?
I'm gonna show
Since you
everybody
just-
the cubic formula. Don't
since
you
you-
wanna know the cubic
Really?
formula?
Really?
Sure, I'm gonna show them the cubic formula.
You are such an
If
ass.
you've never seen, have you ever seen the cubic formula? Have you ever used it?
It's ugly.
Then I gotta show it to you. How do you not know the cubic formula?
You need to write it.
It's doing it right in front of us. What?
No.
It's, why?
I'm gonna show,
Load it
I'm gonna
differently?
show.
What do you think I'm loading?
We're going to Wolfram Alpha. Oh God, that mouse sucks.
You mean that link right there?
Typing it in.
Oh.
Cause I wasn't going slow enough.
Wait, oh, this
You wanted to be
mouse
able to
is
shoot a little
horrible.
bit longer.
I say we settle this in the octagon.
We're gonna settle this in the octagon. Solve.
I'll pay Kool-Aid his ass.
So there's a linear equation, right? So there's
Oh
your,
my God, really?
there's your linear, they've never even seen the linear formula.
You just
before.
showed it to him.
There's your linear formula, yeah, that's your linear equation. Alright, so you want your quadratic equation?
On the cubic.
Well, yeah, I'm working up to it. Right, so if you ask here, we're gonna get 2 solutions, right? Because the fundamental theorem. So there's your quadratic.
Oh my God, look at that, it's horrible.
Well, it's Wolfram Alpha.
And this is why you don't go to Wolfram Alpha for everything.
You know, Wolfram Alpha gives you weird answers sometimes. But that is the quadratic formula.
It's not
just-
wrong, but it's
It's not
ugly.
wrong, but let's do the cubic formula. You ready for it? So AX cubed. I can't believe you guys never seen the cubic formula before. BX
There's a reason for it.
squared,
It's lame.
CX
Lame AF.
plus D. Right, so there's a general cubic, there is a cubic formula and it does work. And there it is, baby, 3 answers. 3 answers, so you got, I mean,
What is this?
yeah, so there's one of the answers, that's the formula for one of the answers.
Wait,
One second answer. Well, there's 3 because you get 3 answers.
It doesn't matter to me.
And this is the third.
It comes out.
He
This is
is
special
my
case.
Sheldon Cooper, that's who he is.
So you wanna see the, you wanna see
No,
the
that's
cortex
implying.
formula?
No one cares, man. No one cares.
Cubic formula. Yeah, that's scary, right? Am I supposed to You seen it?
I don't know how they got the formula for the cubic.
I had one person that's seen it before. So let's do the quartic formula. We're doing the quartic formula, Professor Jones. Do you know it?
No, and you don't know it either.
I know it.
What is it?
I know how to get it.
Wait, just write it down.
I know how to get it too. You know, they're supposed to be practicing skills that are relevant to calculus, and this is not one of them.
Can we derive the?
Math is boring.
I think you
You want to derive the quartic?
No, the quadratic.
easily lead
Just
distracted.
the.
Oh, look how long it takes Wolfram Alpha.
Baby.
Wolfram Alpha's like, I can't do it.
Damn.
There it is, baby.
That's just one of them, and it's not even the whole thing.
I have a poster in my office. If you ever
What do
come
you
to
mean,
my
all that
office.
is one?
Yeah, I have a
I
poster.
thought that was like two of them.
That is just one of the answers.
No, wait.
No, you're done.
We're doing the quintic. You want to see the?
Yeah.
We're doing the quintic.
Yeah.
You were an ass.
Well,
Fight.
it turns out, Isaac Newton was trying to find the formula for the quintic, the general formula.
That guy is such a sweat.
The 5 answers, you know, he spent, Isaac Newton himself, he spent over a decade trying to come up with a formula for the quintic.
What is that? No, what is that square thing?
No, it's nothing. There is no general formula for the quintic. So it was proven by,
Then what is this?
who was the guy's name? Who proved that? I forgot his name. It was proven that there is no formula.
When you go home and you tell your folks about this, Mr. Redden's wasting your time.
Oh, hey, look.
Oh no, this is good stuff.
She's getting us.
Oh, you're right, we have evidence, it's being recorded, boom! I'll get you fired.
What is that called, direct evidence?
Well, you were the one who wanted them to
Mouse
keep
totally
it so-
sucks. What was his name that proved it was impossible to solve the
No
quintic?
one cares.
So,
I might care, everybody.
Yeah.
they care, I just forgot his name.
Who the
Galois.
hell said I might care? I heard that.
So Galois, when you get to, when you become a math,
That's why
You have
she's
just
like
reserved a place in math help. Not math jail, math help.
there. I have no math criminal record yet.
so when you get to
You
math,
do now.
Do know, I said yet.
How do you pronounce it?
Galois.
And the first name?
So there he is, let me go back, try to find a better picture. How come this is like, so hard to use, this mouse?
Because you're looking at the wrong screen.
It's like galleries.
Look at the screen on the right while you're doing it, it's in live time.
So Isaac Newton spent 10 years trying to figure out the general formula for a quintic. And then in 1811, Galois came around and he proved that there is no formula for the general quintic.
Why are you pointing at age 29?
20. What did you do at age 20?
I'm not 20.
I'm not 29.
What did you do at age 20? You're not there yet, so you got some time. So Isaac Newton spent all that, Isaac Newton, the greatest mathematician of all time, trying to do something that was impossible.
And anyone know that Thomas Edison?
I don't know, I got kind of like Leibniz.
Huh?
And so he was age 20 when he died.
Wait, he
Imagine what he would have done if he would have lived.
So are we still arguing that over
I mean,
like?
he solved the
after, like,
problem
20
Isaac
years?
Newton.
He was shot.
Anybody know why he died? You gotta read about Galois.
He was shot, man, he was shot in the abdomen. I knew it.
He got in a fight in a bar over a girl, ended up in a duel.
Oh, I know how to keep them away from up here.
A duel is like, where you get a gun, you lock 10 spaces, and you turn
Come back,
around and you
Mr.
shoot
Red.
at the guy. And you got shot in the stomach in a duel? I mean, that's ridiculous. But imagine the things they could have done. So there is no formula for the quintic. That was the question.
Already?
No, no one asked that question. No. He didn't even know the word quintic.
But there is a quintic formula.
I still don't know what that square means though.
Not the quintic formula.
I don't know how to use the quintic formula, but it does exist.
I do not know how to use it. Just fill in a bunch of shit. It's tedious. All right. Where was I? I have no idea. I got a red one.
We're gonna have a duel. Do you want a duel?
No,
Sure.
I don't need to do really, because that's fair.
Water duels.
Because the smaller target wants to take on the bigger target in a game of projectiles. That seems like a fair and even challenge. Look at this ass. All right,
Which ass?
this is leading to what you're asking.
The you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, what do we do here? Anybody but Redden?
Oh, yeah.
We can do a U substitution to make this a little bit easier on us. What should I use for U? If I use U equals x squared, what does that make x to the fourth? It makes it U squared, right? So this turns into 3U squared minus 13U minus 10 equals 0.
What was that?
Now, you can do some guess and check here. I'm not a big fan of guess and check because if you don't guess it right, it can take forever. So we're looking for negative 30 and negative 13. And You might go 10 and 3,
Nah,
because that's not right, because for this to be negative, one of them's gotta be negative, one's gotta be positive, and the bigger number has to be negative. And we found it. 3u squared, I will split this into plus 2u and minus 15u. And this leads to something Professor Tom brought up yesterday when we're factoring here. The u comes out nicely. If I want to get this so that I have a common factor between these two groups, I actually need to factor out the negative with it. I want this to be a 3u plus 2 also, which means I need to factor out a negative 5. And make sure this changes sign. You'll see if I do negative 5 times 3u, I get the negative 15u, and negative 5 times 2 gets me the negative 10. Don't just leave it like this. Don't be lazy. Write the equal 0. If you don't write the equal 0, it looks like you don't know what you're doing. And you may forget to finish solving. I see it all the time. People factor and then think the factoring was the end result after they drop the equal 0, and it's not. We're looking for answers, and we don't have answers yet. So we get u minus 5 equals 0, or 3u plus 2 equals 0. So we can do the sub now or later. I'm just going to do it later. So I get u equals 5 or u equals negative 2/3.
Done, circle it, let's go.
You're not done.
Done, let's go.
Teresa, tell him why he's wrong.
We're not done?
You're not done because you have to like figure out what the answer is by
Right there,
putting it
five
back
and
into
three.
the original
5 2/3.
equation, right?
It was a substitution.
It was a substitution. I'm so glad everyone in here is able to tell Redden how he's wrong yet again.
Done, 5 and negative 2/3.
You have failed us yet again.
gee,
I
that
can't
much
even see
short.
the original problem.
Oh.
I can feel the ratings go down.
So we should get 4 answers, not 5, not 2? Holy crap, you can do that.
So when I take the square root, what happens here?
Plus or minus.
We get plus or minus. Do not forget the plus or minus. What about if I take a square root here? Oh, this is plus or minus square root of negative 2/3. This is not good. I don't want a negative in there, and I don't even want a fraction in there. What? We can use I. This is negative 1 times 2/3. So this comes out as the I. But I still don't like it.
I like it.
You would. You're inferior in every way.
Oh, yeah.
As guaranteed by the fundamental theorem of algebra, 4 answers right there.
We don't leave radicals in the denominator
Oh.
because this is the equivalent of square root of 2 over square root of 3.
Really? You're gonna take off for that?
Yes, I am.
You can't just like circle that and be done?
You can. You could also circle square root of 0 over 2.
All right, rationalize it, hurry up.
I don't need, if you didn't interrupt everything, I wouldn't need to hurry up. Fuck. We want to get rid of the radical on the bottom. The easiest way is to multiply by another square root of 3 on top and bottom. So we're going to get plus or minus I square root of 6 over 3.
We've got the I right now.
I did.
You wouldn't take that? Calculus class, that's fine, right? Just be done.
If it says to, publish and pass it on.
Nobody reads the instructions. I would give full credit for that.
And yet you still have a lower rate my professor score. What are you doing wrong in your classes?
I mean, that's ridiculous.
You gotta make sure both.
Yeah, but the Alex
Oh, the Alex one
Yeah.
wants that one, right?
yeah,
Yeah, Alex will.
Yeah, see, that's why we had to learn it the way the
This is why we don't let Redden teach calculus classes anymore. He's restricted
But it
to
is
like
the
algebra
same.
and computer science.
What if I just did square root of 2/3 and got a decimal and said like 4.35i?
You'd have, you'd feel like they were.
Would you accept that?
I'm gonna bring a weapon tomorrow.
Decimal.
There's gonna be a Redden Be Good stick in here.
Nobody
tomorrow.
knows how to do this. Nobody knows how to rationalize.
We just did it.
They don't know.
Now, we're gonna do more with radicals in a little bit. Maybe not today, because we've been derailed too much.
Okay, well, then what about?
But notice we do have 4 solutions. How? This looks like 2.
Anything after.
This is x equals square root of 5, negative square root of 5, because these are 2 solutions. Don't forget the plus or minus means 2 different ones. I've got I root 3, or I over 3 root 6, and like an or negative I root 3 over 6. Nope, wow, I read it right, but I said it wrong. I over 3 root 6, there we go.
He has a spirit.
I tend to do the I with a little curl. It's a good thing to get in the habit of, because if you don't, it can really quickly look like a 1.
If I can't read it, it's wrong.
It's wrong, it's correct. And when you get to like physics or electrical engineering, they might use J instead of I in other classes.
That's ugly.
Because I in electricity is what, Mr. Redden?
I honestly don't know.
It's amperage. You really didn't know?
Well, I'm not good at electricity. Current, yes, current.
So we can defeat Captain AI by just shutting off the power. Who would have guessed?
I need to take that class. What class is that? Electric
It's called circuits.
circuits?
And I took it with Dr. O a year ago, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, as a teacher,
Yeah, I know.
because I wanted to expand my knowledge also. But I stayed in-house. I didn't go to Georgia for it. Oh,
Low blow.
low blow, cut low.
Doctor was the best.
Dr. O is a really good teacher. It's too bad he doesn't teach anymore. All right.
My engineering classes anymore?
Doctor retired.
He retired. He's,
You know, he's like, he said he's.
I think he does workshops and
He's-
stuff.
Just works in the Mesa and he said he's like half-time or something.
Yeah. He's a Mesa liaison with faculty.
Who
But he
teaches
gets paid
engineering
for it.
classes then?
Yeah. He very much, he definitely gets paid.
He's
He probably gets paid more than we do.
Even now?
I don't have no idea.
Who teaches engineering classes?
Mr. Allen teaches.
Yeah, Professor Allen, Dylan, engineering professor.
I know you've met him.
Dylan was a
You've
student.
been to Friday Night Lab. You've met him.
I don't know, I don't know.
This guy?
You may not have taken a class with him, but you've met him.
Yeah.
Mr. Allen was Professor Allen was a student here at COS like me, 2 years after me. And the bastard's already getting more degrees than I am.
He's a machine.
He makes me feel stupid. He doesn't try, he's just so smart that I'm intimidated when I'm around him. I'll be honest, I've told him. Mr. Red,
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, that's right.
Professor Houck, before that, if I had been a professor at the same time, he would have been intimidating. He had a lot of degrees, aerospace, engineering, physics, math, I forget what he had.
Wait, who?
Professor Houck, Steve Houck. It's before your guys' time, unless you've been coming to COS for over a decade. How do I solve this one? Should we use the cubic, like Mr. Redden said?
Nah,
What should I do?
x minus 3x.
Do what?
This x and then factor.
Factor's the word.
So factor out an x?
Yeah. Then x, yeah, so this x minus 3x.
Does anyone know what that is, the quick form? It is the difference of squares. A squared minus b squared is a minus b, a plus b. So we have x squared minus 3 squared So we have x minus 3, x plus 3. If you're going into calculus, you should memorize that one. There are other ways to get it.
What's the formula for sum of squares?
Mr. Rainey, you don't know?
What?
Sum of squares.
What A
If
squared?
a squared minus b squared equals a plus b times a minus b, what's a sum of squares? What is this one?
It's,
A squared plus b squared.
it's A plus B whole square minus
A,
2AB.
what?
A plus B whole square
A
minus
plus
2,
b squared
minus 2AB.
minus 2ab.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? These are your students, Professor Jones. Good luck with that.
That is
Is
correct.
that, yeah?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
That is technically not incorrect, but it's not factored.
I mean, that is correct though. He just asked for the formula.
Yeah, but it's, yeah, he asked for a formula, right?
Yeah.
So this is what people usually do? Yes,
That
no?
is,
Yes, no?
Nah, boo.
Sum of squares. Is that how it factors? Sum of squares? And that was difference of
the
squares.
right side is square of sum, not sum of square. That is,
So this one's correct. Difference of squares. So the question is, what's the sum of squares? Gonna add it to a.
he's not looking.
That's what it is, yes.
That's the I.
But this is, I'm just pointing out a common mistake. This is not, this is, I get this a lot. Sum of squares, it's not that. To blow your mind? Difference of squares is that. Sum of squares is not that.
So, there is a sum of squares formula. Usually you would just try to do, you can use it, what we had up here. While we're on the topic, since I know he's gonna go there, we have our cubics, sum and difference of
We
cubics.
need to
Yeah,
know
that-
the
that would be-
cubics for calculus. We don't need to know cubics.
Oh, wow.
We didn't need to quit it,
Yeah.
get out, just get out.
Difference of cubes for calculus. Difference of cubes,
Yeah.
really? Do we need to memorize that, like really?
A plus B.
I use so, the acronym so.
How often do we use those in calculus?
Sometimes.
Like never.
Nah, sometimes.
Do you ever use them? I mean,
Yeah.
calculus 1, 2, 3, some of you took it already?
Yeah.
I made it through a whole master's in mathematics without memorizing that.
What is the G?
Pretty memorizing that.
Really?
I did.
They're like
Must be
identical
using
formulas.
ChatGPT then, I guess.
This sign matches this on both of them.
Yeah.
This one is different.
Yeah.
And the formula is set up the same.
I guess it's easy to memorize, but I'm just questioning the usefulness.
Now you're questioning the usefulness of what we learned.
I mean,
I don't recall if it shows up in calculus much or not.
yeah, I don't know either.
It does like that certain.
Once in
And
a
if it
while-
did, it's probably in the denominator, and then you're gonna have to do partial fraction decomposition. Partial fraction
You could derive
decomposition is good stuff.
division and stuff, I mean, you can always derive that.
But we weren't done, and we weren't asked to just factor. We were
Oh,
asked
we
to
have to
solve.
Oh, we're solving?
Yeah.
So how many answers should we get? You're solving that?
Yeah.
We get 3 answers?
We should have 3 answers, and let's see. The one that throws off students a lot is this one. They see it, they're like, it's not in parentheses, what the hell do I do with that? Well, it is multiplied by the other two, so it is one of those that we set to 0. It doesn't just go away, we don't divide it out. Because we see that 0 is an answer. Ta-da! Now, what if I wanted to do this with the quadratic formula when I was right here? I can get the x equals 0, but what about like x squared minus 9 equals 0 with quadratic formula?
Go for it.
Well, we need to identify what A, B, and C are, right?
Yeah.
What's A? 1. What's B? 0. What's C? -9. So if you have forgotten, there was a negative boy. He was indecisive about going to a party, or this super radical party. He was such a square. And he ended up missing out on meeting 4 awesome chicks. That party was over at 2 a.m.
That is ridiculous.
You were
Out of all the things you've said,
That story
Dave,
is ridiculous. I like Galva's story better.
share it.
Galva, I already did.
What?
Oh, you like his story in general, not this.
Prove that. Quentin.
So we're plugging stuff in, 0 plus or minus 0 squared minus 4 times 1 times -9, all over 2 times 1. X equals square root of 36 over 2 with a plus or minus. Plus or minus 3.
Oh my god, if someone does that, that's like ridiculous. What if we just did guess and check? Like, forget all that, and what if I just said, I can see the answer is gonna be a 3 or a -3, just by inspection?
I will give you a 0 on that part of the word.
Really?
I would.
It's like obvious.
Sure, it's obvious to us. What if I chose a number that is not obvious?
But it's, let's take the square root.
That's another way. That is another way. This is a,
Do this.
now that I would accept.
This is crazy.
Add the 9 to both sides, we get this, take the square root, and we still get x equals plus or minus 3. There's lots of ways to skin that cat when we get to it. This is a 6 saying.
I've never heard that.
You've never heard there's more than one way to skin a cat? It's a fantastic saying. I used to bring it up at least once a semester in class, and then one student just started bawling and their cat had just died. And I felt really bad. I just told the story.
I didn't understand what.
So I have said there's more than one way to skin a cat in class before.
It's a horrible.
And in one of the semesters, one of the students just started bawling, crying out loud. And I said, my cat just died this week. And so I felt bad for a moment. It's not my job to make you happy. Hopefully my mere presence alone does that, but I do tend to entertain.
This is how you know the ratings are
Jones
raised.
has something against cats. That's a 0 on the internet.
Oh, you wanted to do like, since the day's over, let's go do the internet thing.
No, let's not do regular professor.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm out of here.
I don't wanna see it, I don't even wanna know.
Great plan professor.
Oh, you might have tied me, we'll find out.
They're both good, but I think yours is like by sheer numbers.
Oh, it's doing it by school, my bad.
Lab project.
Wait, this one's for high school? What?
You guys don't use this, right?
It's important to me that we're in your classes.
I got a 0.
No, that's John John, I don't know who the hell John John is, I like that.
That's because you have it under, you have to click on the school itself.
What?
So go back to the school,
I got a 5 out of 5.
and click on the bottom, yeah, right there.
No, that's the school, not you.
No. Go to the page, if you click on the name, yeah, if you click on the name itself on the.
Yeah, Mr. Jones is not using
I kinda want to.
They're not in order here.
Like, if you go back to where it says College of the Sequoia.
Go
On the
ahead.
name itself, yeah, that,
Oh, shit.
There you go.
Now you're only.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Jones, you lose too many.
Oh, you do have a 5, that's so cute. Wait, hold on. 93% would take again.
Mr. Jones, he beat you.
That is a respectable rating. I approve of that rating.
Hey, Mr. Jones, he beat you by 0.1.
It is an A minus.
well, look at the sheer numbers though, like, it's like.
99% would take again. I have some unfactual reviews on my account that are negative, probably put there by Redden, but I don't know if they're true.
He just goes home and searches your name and just comments.
Like, I got some awfuls going on, and I don't know what they are. So he does have a higher rating, quality-wise, but less percentage of students would take him again.
When I looked at yours, it was at 5.
It fluctuates, it goes because it's rounding.
This is for mathematics though, right?
Yeah.
This is for overall.
No, this is mathematics.
Why don't you research yourself in CS department?
No, it's the same. You can look down and see. It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
It just looks like a department.
A lot of them
We broke the internet.
I broke it.
Yeah, welcome to college. So one of the complaints on there was, he makes me read. Hours out of class.
No, one of the complaints, if you scroll down on mine, is he belittled the student and made them cry leaving class.
Was that the cat student?
If I did that, it would have been reported and I would have gotten in trouble. You gotta read some of the reviews. I got some false reviews. I'm pretty sure, someone just didn't like me because I gave them a low grade. I don't see either of us on this computer science list.
You're not even in the department.
Neither is Red.
Is Red in there?
But like,
No.
if you go back to your mathematics room,
So you guys are just mathematicians.
You're right, I think I did see computer science there.
what's the rating for with CS on there?
Well, that's because they looked up by the instructor rather than derailed.
I think that's just like the part that you're registered under.